So today we're going to chat about how to get the most out of online discussion. So ever feel like this in an online discussion? You're trying so hard to get students to go beyond the general I agree statements and actually use discussion for deep learning, but it's just not working. So today we're going to check out some strategies to help use these to the best of our ability and be able to see how Brightspace can help us use online discussion. So we're talking a little bit about theory and pedagogy of online discussion, and then really diving into some strategies, talking classroom management of online discussions, and how Brightspace can help promote those good online discussions. So learning in online discussions is a collaborative process, right? So students learn by co-constructing their knowledge together, synthesizing that shared learning occurring to develop negotiated new knowledge through a contextualized process. And there are phases of learning in online discussion. This kind of starts out with that base level of just kind of sharing and comparing information, and then discovering and exploring kind of the differences of their ideas, and finally really getting to where they're synthesizing and agreeing on newly constructed meaning. Now, while this looks like a linear process, actually getting to the point where students are testing and modifying their newly constructed knowledge really rarely happens in online discussions. For the most part, online discussion is just a great way to get students to the point where they can share their ideas and sometimes begin to identify where they disagree and agree. They rarely get to that deep synthesis piece, and that's totally okay because this is useful base level learning to get to more deep level learning. This is why online discussion is great for things like this. Things like voicing initial opinions before the deeper face-to-face discussions. Think about those times where everybody wants to share their opinion. This is a great place for it. Formative assessment. This is a great place to do those knowledge checks or to build class camaraderie. It's a great alternative collaboration option for students who maybe are less likely to voice their opinions in class. And it's fantastic for harnessing the power of learning from one another. Now, this might not be the place for summative assessment or creation level blooms, and that's okay because it has to have a place in the learning process. Now, if we want to work towards deeper learning, aligning conversation starters and really kind of delving into good questioning helps begin to get that deeper level of conversations going. So here are some examples, and there are a lot more linked in this module, of question starters that can help you develop those ideas. In addition, the research shows that depending on the guidelines you present, you'll kind of get a different kind of discussion. Generally speaking, if you specify the number and length of posts, so for instance, you say you have to reply to 2 people's posts, or you have to have it be this many sentences long, you're going to get more content in the discussion, but you might get less deep learning. Whereas removing these constraints and these guidelines tends to open this up more. So it really depends on the purpose of your online discussion. However, there are some good best practices. Setting up a schedule where students have to respond with their initial post at a certain time and then their replies due on a different day helps make sure there's a good variety available to reply to instead of everyone just kind of doing it the night before. And requiring students to respond to a new topic before they can reply to others on threads encourages multiple ways to respond. And also using assigned roles where students are the questioner, or they're the reviewer, or the summarizer, or the adding of current events related person. Those can also provide meaningful conversations. Now, we know assessing online discussion can be really time consuming and challenging. And remember, the online discussion is showing the learning process, not the end product really. So grading individual posts might not really show what students learned. Instead, we recommend doing reflection writing where the students share what they've learned, or developing an end product where they need to create something based upon what they learned in the discussion to provide a summative experience. This will help with your grading, but also will help to understand what the students really learned. Now here's an example of a reflection assignment as a current events discussion. Notice how this doesn't assess their own particular post, but instead it looks to see where the students learn from the experience. This is linked in our module as well as some other examples. And here's an example of using a rubric to grade the reflection assignment. Utilizing rubrics for online discussion can be really helpful in assessing this kind of social learning. And Brightspace makes this super easy, as we'll explore. Now note, this rubric and other examples are provided in the links to this module. So online discussions are really an extension of your classroom. So having some strategies around managing these online environments up front really helps to get the most out of your discussion. Being an active monitor, especially on the first couple of discussions, helps students understand the academic nature of the discussion and helps it feel like an extension of your class. Now, you don't have to read each post, but your students should feel like you're invested in the learning experience with them. Praising discussion posts or asking follow-up questions, or if someone's not following your etiquette, immediately removing the post so that students are aware of the expectations, especially at the beginning, can help set up some good practices for your students. Now, normalizing etiquette rules really is helpful as well. Providing students with this information on the discussion board itself and talking about it in class is helpful. And your etiquette style will be different depending upon your purpose of your discussions. So determining what is and isn't allowed will help your students understand the use of your discussion for learning. Now note, there's some good links provided for some pre-created ones that you can just pull from or build from, linked in this module. So Brightspace does a great job of helping us utilize online discussions effectively. There's differentiated discussion content. So there's options for changing the way that it's viewed so that you can see if people can reply anonymously, or moderator has to approve it, or users can't start a thread before they can read and reply to others' threads, which I always recommend. When your students can also insert stuff instead of just having an online discussion being fully text-based. So they can post videos or audio notes instead of typing a response. You can also choose for students to only work with specified groups. So if you wanted to have the students speak in individual groups and then come back to the discussion, you can set those up. And you can also include release conditions so that students have to view a video or read something or complete an assignment before moving on to the discussion under the restrictions. There are also great discussion statistics. You can look at the data about the discussion by the student or by a specific topic. And you can also click on a topic and see user-specific data for that particular topic. Brightspace also allows you to assess discussions in different ways. So just like we said that there are multiple ways to kind of really understand the learning occurring in this, Brightspace does a great job of giving you flexibility and options for that. So things like attaching a rubric, allowing assessments of individual posts, or grading the discussion as a whole are all options when you set up your discussion. Now it's your turn. So check out our discussion board setup for you to respond to, and then play with your own course to design your own discussions.